Warren Buffett, and he says the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything.
Ooh.
And I love that because
It still feels like a lot for me.
It's a lot, but it's the idea of constriction for you.
Yeah.
But it's the idea, I think what he means by that.
Disclaimer. This channel is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional therapy, counseling, or medical advice. The content shared here does not constitute or replace therapeutic services. Please consult a licensed mental health professional for personal support.
Hi, I'm Katie.
And I'm Diane.
Almost 20 years ago, we met in rehab.
And we've been besties ever since.
We've both worked hard at healing our addictions.
And gone on to build meaningful lives.
I am a licensed therapist and yoga instructor.
And I'm an embodiment coach and tantra healer.
We believe connection and authenticity are the antidote to an increasingly polarized world.
We're here to support you through your most difficult relational challenges with warmth, insight, and humor.
Yes! And remind you, you're never alone.
Because we can relate.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of We Can Relate. Today's topic is on saying no to the people that we love.
Who out there, we want to hear all about it, can relate to saying yes when you want to say no, or struggling to get the no out, or even recognizing that it is a no. And as always, we want to hear stories. Where have you said no and it hasn't gone well? Where it has? Where are you at in your process with no's? And if this is something you relate to or resonates, please be sure to like, share, save, subscribe.
Yeah, and so one of the reasons we wanted to do this episode was because we've done a previous episode on pathological accommodating, which really has to do with like people pleasing. And so take a look at that if this subject interests you. We got a lot of feedback on that, and it seemed like this really resonated. So we thought, why don't we take a more specific piece, and this concept of saying no really came in. So that's the episode today.
I love it. So Kitty, we have a story about this one. We've got a couple stories to bring in because this is a hot topic. Boundaries.
Yes, and I've really struggled with this. It's been really hard. So with Diane and I, our story that we want to share with you is she was out and we had an agreement about her using my car. So I didn't really want her to use my car. We agreed not to.
Well, there's a story about why.
Yeah, well, okay, so do you want to say that part?
Well, I kind of lost my privileges.
I was letting her use my car, and then...
Your super cute roadster, by the way.
Thank you.
So hot. And she was being so generous because before I moved here, coming from cross country over was pricey. And it was so kind of you because when available, she let me use her car so that I could save money on renting one. And unfortunately, what happened is I went out one evening to go to an appointment, do some things, and went and saw a friend and checked in and asked if it would be okay if I stayed the night. She said, yeah, just make sure to please be back. I think it was like 9 or whenever, 8. I need my car by then, and then I have a session and blah, blah, blah. I said, sure, no problem. Set my alarm for, I think, 6 or something. We'll absolutely get it back. And in the morning, I came out and was ready to bring it back, and there was a flat tire that was so flat that even just like the drive a bit was like thunk, 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 thunk. And it actually ended up being 2. I don't know. I must have, I don't know, hit a curb or a nail. I don't know.
So 2 flat tires.
And Katie has, first of all, no tow places were open yet. No shops were open yet. I didn't know what to do. Your spare didn't happen to be there. The stuff that like was a sealant wasn't going to work. Yeah. All the things, it was just one thing after another, and I went into this space of, oh God, I'm messing my friend's life. She's been so good to me. And so it took forever, and the whole thing, and I ended up needing to go to a specialty shop, specialty tires, very expensive. It took forever to get back to you, and it really messed with my friend's day, and I felt terrible.
Yeah, and I knew it wasn't, this stuff happens, but it was, we both basically came to a place with this story where we said, okay, it's too anxiety provoking for me now, and it's too anxiety provoking for you. You didn't want to be, neither of us wanted to be in that position again.
Of course.
So we had made a pact, an agreement, like she would either take Ubers or she would rent while she was here, and that felt good to both of us.
Yeah, the stakes were just too high for it to be worth something going sideways.
So then the next trip, she came out, and we'd been going along with the agreement as we both had agreed to.
I was Ubering, yeah.
Yeah, she was Ubering. And then she had a session with somebody, but it was a pretty long distance, and she knew I was going to be in for the night. And so I think you just kind of were like, I don't know if I should ask, but it's going to be really expensive, so it would be helpful.
Yeah, I think it was like $100 each way or something. I was like,
it's pricey.
And I was like, well, maybe there's one exception. I was like, no, don't ask. And then I was like, okay, I'm actually also working on just asking and see, because maybe, and that would save me $200. So I was like, maybe just a one-time thing. So, and I did. I asked, and what was interesting is, as I put it out there, and what I immediately saw was Katie's like a flinch, a pause, a contraction, which I speak in another episode about. If there's a contraction, that's usually your heart, your body's way of saying something doesn't feel good about that, which I saw, and immediately went into story of, I can't believe I asked that. Shame on you. You're terrible. Like, you don't respect your friend. I can't believe this whole
stories we tell ourselves. That's another episode. Check it out. But what's funny is she did notice that in me, because she asked, and I had my own stories come in, and my own pause, because as soon as she asked that, I felt put on the spot, and I felt like I didn't know if it was a no, but I also couldn't get myself to say yes. And my own story was like, gosh, Katie, you're such a bad friend. I mean, she just wants to borrow the car, and nothing's probably going to happen, and you could save her some money. And so we both had our mutual stories going on. And then I think you came in and you said...
No, in moment, I saw it. We kind of both were deer in headlights.
Yeah, I ran into the kitchen.
Yeah, and I needed to run away and have my process.
Yeah.
And so we both had this deer in headlights moment.
And we both went to go self-regulate.
Yeah, and I blurted out, I was like, thank you for taking care of yourself, which is a great thing to say when somebody gives you a no. And I've been trained in that, so I was like, thank you for taking care of yourself. I'll be right back. And then went to the bedroom and was like, oh, I can't.
But can we just pause for a minute?
Yeah.
I want to honor what you just said, because that takes a lot for someone to be able to, she's worked on it, but to be able to say in a moment where I'm kind of triggered a bit, she's triggered a bit, for her to actually be able to be generous enough just to say, thank you for, was it honoring yourself?
Yeah, thank you for taking care of yourself.
Thank you for taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Imagine if in your relationships, the partner you have or your friends, when there's things you need to do to take care of yourself, that they gave you this response. So I just wanted to put that out there. We can come back to that.
Yeah, well, and admittedly, there was a little part of me that was like, but like, it is a lot of money, and it probably isn't going to happen again, and all these little things that led me to just check it out and ask. But it was a no, and I saw it immediately. I got the download, and I've done a lot of work, and in my trainings of, enthusiastic consent is very much one, and that isn't just sexually. That's, I want to be.
I love that.
Yeah, I want to be the kind of friend that, if there's a no there, I receive that and respect it and honor that and recognize it as what it is, which is you taking care of you. It's not actually about a rejection of me. And
it's not personal.
It's not personal. And even though it did feel that, and my shame came in, that's my stuff. And so we did take the pause. And I did ground and reconnect with wanting to be somebody that can receive a sacred no, but also somebody who can say no to people and be received with generosity, and for there to be space for that. And one of the things, a quote I love from one of my trainings, which is the thank you for taking care of yourself when receiving a no, but also a no to someone else is a yes to yourself. A no to you is a yes to myself.
Yeah, and I think that is what maybe we would call a sacred no. That, I love her. If I can meet her needs, I want to. Like, that's my bottom line, if I can. So what do we do in those times when something else is saying, I'm not sure? And one of the things I always tell people, because it's been helpful for me, is like, if you're not sure, you can keep in your back pocket the question, can I think about it? Let me get back to you.
Yeah.
And these are going to really be some of the tips, but it's like, it's so important to remember that, because I think when we feel put on the spot, we feel a pressure to say yes. And how do we, I need to let her deal with her own feelings.
Yeah.
She needs to let me deal with my own
Yes.
feelings. And
then
yeah, no, please
come back and meet, because it's not like we just went to separate sections of the house and then that was the end of that and shame spiraling. We both regulated and then came back and had a conversation about it, and I was like, yeah, this was the agreement. You took care of yourself. I want to be somebody that can receive a no from the people I love, and for that to get to be okay. And vice versa.
Absolutely. And
it deepens
it absolutely does.
the relatedness.
It does deepen the relatedness, because then we're meeting each other in our authenticity and what's true for each of us, rather than this forced, okay, yes, but secretly I'm going to feel worried and she's going to secretly feel stressed when she's driving. So we really want to know your stories, because we really think of this as, I think of it as kind of an epidemic, because when I was doing some prep for the show, I was looking up quotes, and I have a bunch of quotes I want to go through today with all of you. But what was so amazing to me was all these quotes. I mean, sometimes you try to find a quote and there's not that much to, like, you really have to search. It was like pages of how to say no. What does that tell you? It tells you that this is a problem probably worldwide.
Pathological accommodating.
Yeah.
And I don't want that in my relationships, and I really don't want to do that in my relationships anymore.
No.
And one of the painful things, you're saying, it can be really hard if you're feeling pressure not to say yes. It's been very difficult. Maybe you can relate. It's been difficult for me to say no, whether I'm in high, or to not say yes and commit to something, whether it's in pressure or no. It's that giving away, the fawning, the pleasing. I want approval, and the self-abandoning is gone. Trying to make connections work at the expense of myself, which really aren't deep connections at all. And so the closeness, so many of us, I really long for connectivity and relatedness, and for all of us to be welcome. And that includes the difficult stuff. It includes, it's okay if you're angry with me sometimes. Yeah. It's okay, and that doesn't mean verbal abuse or anything like that, but we get to feel how we feel. All of you is welcome.
Yes, it's that in this friendship container, there is space for us, we've discovered, to be angry at each other. And because we know we're going to come back to working it through.
The beautiful thing about boundaries, enthusiastic consent across the board, relationally as well as sexually, or anywhere else, it's if I know that you will take care of yourself and I don't have to, we get to go further in our relatedness. And also, I get to relax in knowing that when you say yes, you mean it.
That's right.
And we know the edge. It's a full F yes, and this is where we're at, and then there's a no, and that's okay, and vice versa. And I love that.
I love that too, and I also think it's a symbol of that is an honest relationship. I mean, we all seem to say that we want honest relationships. We want people to be real, to be authentic. And then how many of us, and I've done this for years, and I've thank God I'm finally working on it, but was saying yes to things I didn't want to say yes to. That's not an authentic relationship. That's me wanting to make you I want you to like me, or I feel like I should.
Good person.
Yeah, and I'm much more confident and comfortable, thank God, to just be able to be more honest. And that's what's real. That's a real relationship.
Well, and also, again, who can relate to this? If we are saying yes when we want to say no, on whether it's big stakes or smaller stakes, wherever it is, that is the recipe for resentment. If there's underneath, if in your life there's a lot of veneer of, it's all good, but underneath there's a simmer of, I am unhappy, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I'm resentful. I always suggest, or what I've learned to do is, am I not honoring a need here?
To notice.
Yeah.
You're talking about really noticing your own reactions.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a loneliness of not being known in our relationships and connections. And if we teach people that we're somebody that always says yes, we're going to draw in people that appreciate that we don't have boundaries.
That's right. That's such
and
a
are very
good
comfortable with that, or that's not who I want
or
around.
even prey on that.
Prey on that. Hi, codependent who calls in narcissist.
Yeah.
Historically, breaking that pattern.
Yes, you are.
So yeah, exactly. People that thrive on, because narcissists need people that
will supply them with their narcissistic.
Yeah, and maybe it's not even so deep and pathological, but the issue is in our relationships, if we are saying yes when we need to say no, big stakes, little stakes, it breeds resentment.
That's right.
And if we are repressing that resentment and letting it accumulate on the side, I call it debris, relational debris. If we're letting that pile up like trash on the side of the street, eventually it's going to start to stink. It's going to pile up. It's going to get in the way. Yep. And the relationship isn't going to survive anyway.
Exactly. And you were talking about big stakes or little stakes, and I thought of this little stake story. Sure. I think I think you guys will like this story because it really shows you how many of us are doing this. So I had been invited to a party kind of a couple months in advance, and I had agreed to go. Day of came. I had a long day of clients, and I was tapped out. I had nothing left in me, and I felt really bad because I had agreed to go, but I just called and I told her, I've got nothing left. I'm tapped out, and I'm so sorry. I wanted to be able to have the energy to go. And what she told me later, and she said, no problem. What she told me later was, she's like, you know what, Katie? I really appreciated you calling me and just being honest, because I totally get that. And she said, you have no idea how many people all of a sudden got sick or made excuses because they didn't feel like just not being up to it was a good enough reason. And that is something, when we learn to say no is a complete sentence.
Yes. Oh, I love that one.
Saying no kind of opens up space for new things. I mean, this is a good time to bring in a couple of the quotes I found. One was, learn to say no. Not all things are right for the soul. And it's simple. It's a really simple one, right? But to really understand that to really understand that our choices, that's what we're filling our lives up with. And we've only got time as the most precious commodity. And, if you're saying yes, you're spreading yourself to so many things. You're spreading yourself so thin that you can't actually really focus on what nourishes you, on what you really need, on what's going to give you a meaningful life.
Yeah.
So many of these topics intertwine and weave in, but so I just think that that's a really important piece.
As always, will you repeat the quote one more time?
Yes. Learn to say no. Not all things are right for the soul.
Yeah, that makes me think of that body thing of, even before I knew I felt a no, it was that tightness.
Yeah.
So notice that.
Yeah, and then another quote that kind of connects to this is by Warren Buffett, and he says, the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything.
Ooh.
And I love that because it
still feels like a lot for me.
It's a lot, but it's the idea of constriction for you.
Yeah.
But it's the idea, I think what he means by that, it's the idea of getting so specific about what is meaningful to you, that you say no not because you're punishing yourself or
the other,
not letting yourself do things. It's because you're getting so tied to the things you actually want to do.
Yes, I love this because it's holding space for the things that are truly meaningful. And nobody, people can't give us what we want and need unless we let them know what we want and need and where our edges are. And this makes me think, if I may, about a higher stakes, really challenging recent one regarding holding on to myself and what I want and need most for what I'm holding on to for a meaningful life. And it's hard sometimes with the saying no. A deep longing for me is to have, to be family with somebody, to have really deeply nourishing, connected, lasting bond with masculine, with a male partner. And that's something I've longed for a long time, and I haven't known how to do in a healthy way. And I've been really working on that. And that has included not self-abandoning, not compromising myself to try to make something that has some of that, but not enough of that. Mm-hmm. And then struggling in perpetuity because I'm not getting the debris. Well, I've recently been exploring a connection with somebody that there's so much emotional relatedness. I feel that all of me is welcome in so many ways. Like, it's really yummy. It feels very safe in a lot of ways. However, what has come to light, about 6 months in, is that we have mutually exclusive boundaries and edges about something that makes us incompatible. And I kind of noticed and knew that earlier. And the avoidant in me that's afraid of getting hurt in relationships was like, okay, perfect, I'm not going to get hurt. But as the emotions and feelings grew, I couldn't ignore that anymore. And I knew it was coming, that I was going to have to say no and shift the dynamic. This wasn't, because of these boundaries, there wasn't going to be room for this to blossom into what I want most, which is a really bonded, safe, lasting experience.
Yeah. So the no in this case really opens you up to the yes for the higher purpose or higher goal. Because if you stay engaged when there's something completely incompatible, then there's no room for the thing you really want to come in.
Yeah, and there was a secret part of me that was hoping maybe he would change his boundary line without me pillaging or pressuring. And finally I realized, like, this need of mine isn't going to change, and this need of his isn't going to change. And they're in direct conflict. And again, it's not about being mad, but it was, hey, I got to speak into this because now I'm starting to suffer.
Yeah.
I'm hurting more than I'm feeling expansive, and I've got to take care of myself. And as I've been working on no longer self-abandoning in connections by saying yes when my body is saying, this isn't right, honey, like, you got to love yourself first and more, choose yourself. This was almost like the universe coming in to test me on my commitment that commitment to myself. And I love what you just said, because it's like, where are we putting our life force energy? Where am I putting my energy and attention? What if I poured that into the things that are absolutely a yes, like the show, like these other, building my career? How might those grow and evolve and thrive if the things that are sticky or aren't working, if I lovingly say no and release with love of, like, hey, this is where we land. And if your side, or if it changes, I'd love to explore that. But for now, I have to hold on to myself and trust that even though there's a loneliness or kind of a sorrow of, like, oh, I wanted this to be that, but it's not, and I've got you, self. And trusting that at some point down the line, the non-compromising connection will come for me. And if it doesn't, then I hold on to myself anyway, because I'm choosing to be the love of my own life first, which is a foundation for a healthy relationship anyway. So it's just, but that was a higher stakes than maybe, can I borrow your car? And that's a no. It was like, oh, this is a potential love connection that I'm really sorry and sad that it's not gonna work out. But that's the truth that's revealing itself, and I'm not available or able again to hold on to a connection at the expense of myself.
Yeah.
So, and that feels, even though there's sadness and some real sadness there's also a deeper, I call it my inner queen, who's like, good job, girl. It's hard, and I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Sometimes the hard thing and the right thing are the same thing. And
most often the hard thing and the right thing are the same thing.
Yeah. What about you? Have you had any, like, harder, higher stake feeling? No?
Oh my gosh, I'm sure I have. I haven't thought about that. I mean, the story I thought about was the one with the car, or because you're somebody I love, and I said no to that.
Yeah.
So I'll have to think about that more.
Yeah, just thinking about dating or friendship relationships. But yeah, this comes through, and I love that.
Yeah, I do too, and thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And we want to hear your stories. I think it's a good time to move into tips and tools. What do you think?
It just occurred to me that it's like what I said about a no to you is a yes to myself, and I said yes to myself, and, like, good job, queen, even though it's hard.
Even though it's hard.
And it's like, I'm not here to, I respect this person enough to not start resenting them, letting the debris build, try to pillage through their boundaries, just like I'm not wanting to pillage through mine. It's like, I honor his sacred now, just like I'm honoring mine. And at that point, we have to
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing, is being able to honor someone's no and honor our yes.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Another quote I heard, which was by Ruby Rose, who I believe is an actress, but she said,
She's so pretty.
"Oh yeah,
She was in
yeah, I know who it is. Yeah, she's gorgeous.
the show about jail. Netflix.
Oh yeah, Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, that one.
Okay. Never say no to any. She said, I never say no to anything, whatever the universe brings me. I've always lived by that. And the reason I wanted to bring it in is because it's the opposite of what we're talking about, right? Is like, I think I get what she's saying. We'd have to ask her, of course, but my take on it is she's saying whatever the universe brings me, she's trying to be open to and receive and kind of go with it, go with the flow. And I think there's a beauty in that. But what I would say is it feels a little bit like it's almost like that's also the easy way, because you're not, your ego, the ego is what moderates our lower self and our higher self, right? The ego can either serve some sort of base instinct or it can serve our highest values. So if you're just saying yes to everything, and we can't take it too seriously, because usually when people talk in absolutes, they don't necessarily mean that. But when you're saying yes to everything, it gives your ego, it kind of lets your ego off the hook of doing the harder work of defining what is valuable to you and where do I most want to spend my time. There was a quote that a yoga teacher I know, her teacher shared with her, and she shared it with us, and I'm going to butcher it a bit, but she said the concept was basically that we are so free in this world that we get to choose what we want to bind ourselves to.
Ooh, can you repeat that?
We are so free in this world that we get to choose what we want to bind ourselves to. Now, could be a whole episode for me to go into, trust me. And I don't know that I believe in it as an absolute truth, but I like this idea of the conscious aspect of choosing. I am going to understand myself enough to know what is a sacred no, why it's a sacred no, what is a sacred yes, why it's a sacred yes, and I just think that self-knowledge is so important.
I love that. Yeah, and it really it brings up this idea of, for me, realizing that unless I stand for what I want and need, I'm not going to get that. And if I want this meaningful life, that's going to require releasing the things that aren't that.
Yes.
And
sacrifices.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about really taking ownership of what's a yes and what's a no, we are creating our life. We're gardening, we're tilling the soil of what do I want my life to look like? And it's an empowered place to be, as opposed to being a victim of life and life circumstances.
That's right.
And that's where that resentment, that unhappiness, depression comes in, that this isn't it, or I hate this, or I hate this relationship. And nobody has to be a victim of their life, but that's really tough to build the muscle for. And I part of what I really do like about that quote is this. There's an idea of the universe gives us exactly what we're ready for when we're ready for it. And I kind of smiled to myself about this connection, because it almost felt like, it took me 5 years to finally honor myself and release a former relationship that I knew it wasn't healthy for me about 6 months in, but I was clinging, I was grasping, I was self-abandoning, because I want the parts that are good. And those feel so yummy, but increasingly the parts that were bad were really taking me down. I'd start to say no, but then I'd come back, and it was demoralizing, and I was eroding my trust in myself, that I could take care of myself. Each time I said no and then went back on that and betrayed myself for this connection. And so that took me 5 years. And then now, after having left that and being really proud of myself, because it was hard, and choosing me, and now in the next connections, it's not that it's toxic and unkind and a degree of self-abandonment that's really deeply harmful. But it's almost like, here's even more of what you felt like you want, yet this piece is not aligned. And what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You think you're committed to yourself and what you really want most for your life? Are you going to compromise here? Because it's still a compromise. And it was, I felt the urge to, but increasingly that inner knowing was like, nope.
Yeah.
You gotta pick you. And so I just love this idea of, it's like the next tier. The work is always ongoing.
It is.
And up-leveling, and it might be harder and harder, but it also in a way gets easier as we build the muscle.
It does.
Learn to trust ourselves.
It does.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, in terms of tips and tools, I would say, there was a lot of quotes on learning how to say no without any guilt. And I would say, learn how to say no and bear the guilt.
Ooh,
not
yes.
that you always have to feel guilty. It's great if you don't feel guilty, but there's such a pressure to be able to say no and have no guilt. It's like, that's not really how it works. When you learn to bear guilt, often the symbol of that is, I'm choosing myself, and I since I've always chosen everybody else, I feel guilty. But guess what? That means you're choosing yourself. So guilt can be a sign of you being more on your own individuation process. So I would say to remember that.
There's so much gold in that.
Yeah.
There's so much gold in that.
Yeah.
Was there more?
Well, I had another tip, but did you want to speak to this?
Yeah, I really love that, because it was really hard for this person to hear that, and brought some upset, and that brought up the and also the part of me that wants the yummy, and the holding on, and the empowerment that comes with being uncomfortable with holding on to myself. It is work. Growing pains. We grow through the difficulty, through the challenges, and get stronger. And holding on and being like, it's okay that I'm sad. It's okay that he maybe doesn't like it, but needs to respect it. Just like, I don't have to like it right now, but I need to respect it because I respect myself.
Yes.
And when I respect myself by honoring my no, I hold the standard of others respecting me too.
That's right.
I like that.
That's well said. Yeah.
What else would you got? What else you got?
I think that was the main thing, was to know you can practice saying no and practice bearing your own guilt. And, to remember to give yourself permission that you're not obligated to really check in with yourself about what part of me wants to say yes, so that you know where it's coming from.
Ooh.
And then the main thing is, if you're not sure, because we don't always know, there's a lot of ambivalence, is to give yourself time. You don't ever have to give someone an answer on the spot if you're not ready. And so that kind of means slowing down, checking in with yourself, and that should help you be able to say no when you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about you?
I love that. I just, when what you said, you're not obligated, it makes me think of this thing that I've come to realize, which is how much I value freedom of choice for myself and for others. And way more, I don't want people to do things for me, you to let me borrow your car, or a dating relationship to self-abandon for my sake, because for any reason, duty or obligation bound or guilt or any of that, freedom of choice, and responsibility, self-responsibility, that's self-leadership. And so it's this, I like to ask myself, how would the highest version of me handle this? And what would that look like? And taking the risk, it can be really tough. Years ago, I had a therapist, I was telling her how, she was like, why did you say yes then? Because it's hard, I don't know, because I always say yes. And she gave me an assignment to go to the mall and walk loops and go close to the kiosks where they want to buy a phone, want to sign up this thing, because it made even still, it kind of makes my throat close up, but just to practice saying, no, thank you. No, thanks. No.
Yeah. Wow.
Or even in the mirror, something that helped me was directly looking in my eyes and saying, no. No. That's a no. That's going to be a no for me. And
that's a hard no.
Yeah, that's a no. That's going to be a no. No, thank you. Or a softer way to say this that I began with was, that doesn't work for me. Because, and without the explanation necessarily, because that doesn't work for me. If somebody tries to argue and negotiate around that, they are definitely a boundary pillager, and that's a qualifier for sure.
That's right.
So
yeah, someone's response to your no is going to probably tell you pretty much everything you need to know, or it'll tell you a lot. That's for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, as always, we want to hear everything. Where, relationships, high stakes no, low stakes no. What does it look like for you? Where has it been hard? What are your tips and tools?
Yes, please let us know. We want this to be a community that's interactive, and we really do value what you have to say. So
absolutely. Let's relate.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Bye.